her love for the Virgin Mary made her love chastity and Islam. She found justice while studying in missionary school.
أن تخرج من ضيق الظلماء إلى النور، أن تولد ثانية والماضي مغفور، لحظة أن تشعر بالله في قلبك يقذف بهدى، هذا ما لا يدركه وصف وشعور. يا الله إني ناديتك وسعيت، إني استهديتك فهديت، بالقرآن أنرت طريقي. يا الله يا الله.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Karen Danielson. I live in Illinois, a suburb of Chicago, with my husband and my 5 children. I have ماجستير بالدراسات الإسلامية من الجامعة الأردنية كلية الشريعة.
أختي أيوب، نريد أن نعرف كيف كانت حياتك قبل الهداية.
You know, it was mixed. There were so many things that affected my life, from the alcoholism that was in my family, a lot of vice and a lot of dysfunction. So, to be honest with you, I remember when I was very young, maybe I was just 5 years old or 6 years old, wondering that something's wrong. The way I'm living in this life is wrong. And I went to my bedroom and I would throw myself on my bed crying and saying, you know, as a very small child, God, help me. Something's not right. Show me the right way. The fitra that I had as a small child was alive, and it was guiding me. I was raised a Catholic by my mother. My father was agnostic, meaning he didn't hold a religion. And I remember one day, literally this day changed my life. This day I was in front of all my classmates. We were standing in line at school, and I pulled myself out of the line, and I was in front of everyone talking or saying things and going on. And one boy in the line, he said, like somebody who would say, "Get a life." He said to me, "Why don't you go to church? Like, you need church." And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, I went to church. God's not there." And then he said to me, "Maybe you went to the wrong one." And my life changed. That night, I began thinking about the wrong church. Maybe I was in the wrong place. So I started looking at different churches and going to different places. And I came across a very conservative church. And in this church, there was no drinking, no smoking, no drugs, of course, but there was no dating either. And it was a very conservative church. My mom didn't like the idea that it wasn't Catholic, but I think because it was Christian and it was still a good prospect to go and dedicate your life for the service of God, she finally agreed and accepted that that was the college I was going to go to of my choice, and she paid for my tuition and allowed me to go. I went away to Bible college to start my studies to become a missionary.
في سؤال غريب في بالي. أنت كنتي في مدرسة تبشيرية، يعني دعوة إلى المسيحية. وفي هذه اللحظات، وفي هذه الفترة، وفي هذه المدرسة التبشيرية وجدتي ما يشابه هذا المصحف المترجم. كيف وجدتي؟
Before I went, I took some classes at a local community college, the College DuPage, and I had met some young men from Syria. And I kept thinking, these are such good men, they should be Christian, not Muslim. And one of them told me, you always want us to read the Bible, but would you read the Quran? And I didn't have any intention to read the Quran, But he said, I'll take your New Testament if you take the Quran. So this was something I was thinking this is good. I was happy about that. I took the Quran, he took the New Testament. I had the idea I should look. And that was the first time that I read the Quran while I was at Bible college. SubhanAllah, the first time I read the Quran, I just opened it. It fell into sort of the third chapter, sort of Al-Imran.
نعم.
And I was reading about Jesus. I said, oh my God, I didn't know Jesus was in this book. Mary, Zachariah, the prophets, all the prophets. And I'm reading their history, the story of their lineage, their ancestry, and how God has connected the story. Amazing, amazing story. And I was shocked. Sheikh, I did something I would never do today, but I threw the Quran away. I threw it on the table. I threw it because it scared me. Because suddenly I realized from that one short reading, I had another option. And I kept reading. And I kept reading until I got to this verse in the Quran, in Surah Al-Ma'idah 83. In this passage, God is talking to the Christians. Maybe you know this verse. Those who are the Christians or who call themselves the Christians, when they hear this word of God, this message that is sent to the Rasul, to Muhammad ﷺ, when they see that, you see their eyes fill with tears. Sheikh, my eyes had tears in them when I read that verse. SubhanAllah. And it says, they will say, mark me as a believer. Mark me as a shahada, a witness to this truth. And I knew I was a Muslim at that day.
بكتاب الله للنور اهتديت ليا ماض نادما عنه مضيت بكتاب الله للنور اهتديت ليا ماض نادما عنه مضيت نحو باب الله ذلا فانحنيت راجيا أن يغفر الذنب العظيم إني ناديتك وسعيت إني استهديتك فهديت بالقرآن أنرت طريقي يا الله.
هذه الآية العظيمة سبحان الله وكأنها تخاطب أيوب. أيوب كانت تدرس النصرانية وبنفس الوقت كانت تبحث عن الحق، والله سبحانه وتعالى خاطبها في هذه الآية كأنه يقول لها ليس هذا هو الطريق بل هذا هو الطريق.
And so I retreated to my bedroom and I sat on the floor next to my bed and I held the Quran and I read some more and I'm thinking, you know what, God, if I'm going to change my life, it has to be easy. It can't be hard. If it's hard or if I have some doubts, I'll fail. And I was at the point of begging Allah, please don't let me fail this test. And I read some more verses and I remember placing the Quran on the bed and I fell down into sujood. I didn't know what sujood was as a Christian. It was natural for me to fall into sujood. And I was in sujood, crying and my body was heaving and shaking. It was the scariest moment of my life where I knew everything rested on that moment. Rested on me making it's one thing to see the truth, but to live it is another thing. And so here I am in sujood, and I don't even know why I'm in sujood. And I didn't have a name for it back then. I'm just on the ground crying with my face in the carpet. I knew I was a Muslim because I knew that the Quran was the word of God, because nothing could change me if it wasn't actually God changing me. So after I took my shahada, or I didn't really take a shahada, I just began telling people I'm Muslim. And I was in the middle of Bible college, and I had to leave Bible college, and that was a very difficult transition for me in my life.
بعد اللي حصل هل استمريتي في المدرسة مدرسة تبشير ولا خرجتي منها؟ ماذا حدث؟
It was difficult, Sheikh. In the middle of Bible college, and I start to change how I see God. It wasn't just Bible college, it was an evangelical college. And so the understanding of a triune God is essential. I went away to a state university the following fall, and there I had the opportunity of just telling people I'm Muslim. There was a dawah table that the Muslim Student Association at the university used to put out information. I think context is really important here because this is 1984, 85. There's no internet, there's no computers, there's no PCs. You know, so the material and the way people communicated is very, very different than how we communicate with each other today. So I didn't have a lot of information. But one day, after almost 2 years, I passed by the table, and the brother said, "Sister, this is for you." And he passed a piece of paper on the table. And I looked at the paper, and I took it, and it said American Muslim and a phone number. And I thought, there's another American Muslim? Like, I didn't even know there was another. I thought I was the only one. At that time, it was like you didn't know converts. You didn't know anybody else. You didn't even know American Muslims. You knew foreign students, maybe. And so I held that number, but I finally called it after about a month. I had to finish my final exams, and I finally called it. And the woman at the other end of the line was just the most friendliest person I had ever heard. And she was like, "I've been waiting for you to call me. They told me about you." Her husband and her husband's friends, and I want to meet you. So I went to meet this woman, Becky Muhammad, and she was just the most kind woman I had ever met. She began to teach me how to pray correctly. She was mutahajiba and wearing hijab.
صديق من أصدقائي كانت زوجته أمريكية اللي هي بيكي، فكان جاي هو مع الشباب يحضر المؤتمر، فقال لي أبشر إجاك الفرج لقيت لك زوجي، فأخذ موعد ورحنا على كربونديل بالزيارة. كان موعد الساعة 8 مساء، خربت السيارة في الطريق، فوصلنا 10 أنا وصديق إلي الساعة 10 تقريبا أو 11 مساء، فكانت تنتظر جزاها الله خير. جلسنا في البيت وتكلمنا.
He said, "The woman I marry should be wearing hijab." And I said, "You don't know, like, this is the thing that I want marriage." I'm sorry. I want marriage so that I can fulfill my life as a Muslim woman. And to me, that meant hijab. So it was important for me to get married so that I could complete that part of my obedience to God, my worship of God. And my friend Becky took me to her room, and she had laid out for me all sorts of hijabs and jilbabs, and she said, "Take whatever you want, put on whatever you want, and that's it." So, sorry. It was a very emotional time for me. I put the hijab on for the first time. And I remember looking in her mirror, and of course, you know, for women who put the hijab on for the first time, they know it's difficult. It's not an easy thing, you know, to shape it, to wear it right so it doesn't move or fall off. It takes, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and it was a mess. It was put on horribly. It didn't look neat. It was complicated. I'd never done this before. But I looked at myself and I began crying because for me, I was finally in my identity. What was on the inside was now on the outside too. And so that was a remarkable pivoting point for me in my life.
سبحان الله، قبل إسلامها كانت تشوف في الكنيسة الصورة التي يعتقدون أنها مريم عليها السلام، كانت تشوفها بلباسها وعفتها. تأثرت في هذه اللحظات وهي تشوف الصورة بمريم عليه السلام وعفتها، حبت الحجاب وتأثرت بهذه العفة. الله سبحانه وتعالى يريد العفة لكل بنات بني آدم. الله سبحانه وتعالى يقول: يريد الله ليبين لكم ويهديكم سنن الذين من قبلكم ويتوب عليكم والله عليم حكيم.
I'm happy working in the field of outreach or dawah and community engagement to help establish Islam and American Muslims in this Western society as part and parcel to the society and the community, as valid and vital to this American way of life. For some time, my husband called me Mrs. Dawah for a while, or said that you're married to Dawah too. And you know, it's a joke, but I couldn't imagine my life not being that bridge for Islam and Muslims in America.
سبحان الله، من مبشرة وداعية إلى النصرانية إلى معلمة قرآن وداعية إلى الإسلام. الله سبحانه وتعالى يقول: ذلك فضل الله يؤتيه من يشاء والله واسع عليم.
في كتاب الله قلبي صار حي.
Learn something that
ويوم عادت نفسي وروحي ليه عادت أيام.
Rolling.
كل ما أتلوه أو جيت أسمعه أنسى آلامي وأحزاني معه. من عرفته صارت أيامي هنا، نور في الظلمة في الضيقة سعة. كل ما أتلوه أو جيت أسمعه أنسى آلامي وأحزاني معه. من عرفته صارت أيامي هنا، نور في الظلمة في الضيقة سعة.
اشترك معنا في هذه القناة بإذن الله، راح توصل لك حلقاتنا أول بأول، وساهم معنا في نشر هذه القناة.